And hello there, RosterWatch Nation. It's your friendly neighborhood Trashman, and this is the Garbage Grab. Today, I'm going to be talking about some of my top five, actually, wide receiver steals and fantasy drafts right now. Last time I talked about running back steals and fantasy drafts. This week, it's the wide receivers. Let's go ahead and get started. First off, with Marvin Jones of the Lions. I still think Kenny Golladay has the goods to be a top 5 wide receiver, but if you're not as bullish on him, Marvin Jones is the way to go. 779 yards and 9 touchdowns in 13 games in 2019. Only 8 of those games with Matt Stafford under center. Jones's 9 touchdowns were actually tied for second in the league when he went to injured reserve with a knee injury. He was a top 30 wide receiver in 2019, and his current ADP is wide receiver 40. So that's already value there. And he was a top 20 wide receiver over the last 3 seasons when it comes to bust percentage. He really doesn't bust that often. He has a really high floor, and he's going to have a really high ceiling behind only Kenny Golladay for targets in this Lions offense with hopefully a healthy Matt Stafford this season. The 2020 RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet is available now at RosterWatch.com. The revolutionary cheat sheet that changed fantasy football forever is back only at RosterWatch.com. The RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet, all you have to do is follow the 3 simple rules. That's it, 3 of them. It couldn't be easier. An expert quality fantasy football draft is guaranteed. The RosterWatch Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet only at RosterWatch.com. Moving on after Marvin Jones, another steal at the wide receiver position is Jarvis Landry of the Browns. He's outperformed his ADP every year he's played, and that's in 6 years in the NFL. He's one of the only 3 receivers to post top 25 fantasy numbers over each of the last 5 seasons, the others being Julio Jones and Mike Evans. That's good company to be in. And he's coming off career highs in yards and yards per reception. He's playing the Stefon Diggs role in this Kevin Stefanski new Browns offense for all intents and purposes. So I like Landry. He's coming off of, I believe it was hip surgery, but he should be healthy by the time the season starts. And as much as we'd like to bet against Landry every year even, he never underperforms in fantasy. And so I'm taking him as a steal. After him, I have Sammy Watkins of the Chiefs. He posted 14 receptions, 288 yards, and a touchdown through the 3-game 2019 postseason. He actually he was arguably their best receiver throughout the postseason. He's right now the cheapest starting member of the Chiefs offense. Yes, he's actually cheaper than Mecole Hardman. His ADP is actually higher. He had more targets than Tyreek Hill in 2019. Yes, he played 2 more games, but still 90 targets on the Chiefs. I'll take any piece of that offense, really. And Sammy Watkins actually gets a pretty big chunk of that offense. I think even more than Hardman this year. His ADP, like I said, is behind Mecole Hardman's right now. Hardman will have his good games. He'll have his great games, actually. But I don't see as much consistency from Hardman as I do potentially out of Watkins, who is actually just turned 27 years old. Still relatively young for a wide receiver in the NFL. Actually going into his prime, you could say. And he's got an ADP also behind guys like Alshon Jeffrey, who we don't even know is going to start this season. He could start the season on the physically unable to perform list. So I like Sammy Watkins as a steal right now. After him, I have Devinfunchess of the Packers. He only played 1 game in 2019 when he broke his collarbone for the Colts. But he's looking like the number 2 receiving option in Green Bay behind Devontae Adams. He posted 840 yards and 8 touchdowns in his last full season, which was 2017. He ended up being wide receiver 22 with an inaccurate Cam Newton, and he gets arguably the most accurate quarterback in the league with Aaron Rodgers. Right now, he's being drafted behind guys like Kenny Stills, Mohamed Sanu, and Cole Beasley, none of whom have his upside in that Packers offense. He's also a really good red zone option, Funchess is. So I think he is a steal in fantasy right now. And then last but not least, I have Randallcobb of the Texans. $18.75 million guaranteed from the Texans, means they intend on using him and using him a lot. Will Fuller hasn't played a full season in his entire career, and his highest number of games that he's played was 14 in 2016, his first year in the league. So I would not count on Fuller playing playing a full season at all, really, because it's never happened, especially if he's being relied on as the number one option. I think he's going to get dinged up. Cobb cleared 800 yards as the number 3 in Dallas in 2019 with 83 targets. He could very well see over 100 targets as potentially the number 2 option on a Houston team, maybe even number 1, as it turns out, on a Houston team with no alpha wide receiver. He's being drafted behind the likes of John Ross and Corey Davis and should have a much more reliable, consistent role than either of those guys. So to me, that makes for a steal in fantasy. Anyways, this has been it for the Garbage Grab. On behalf of RosterWatch.com, I'm the Trash Man. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a subscription, membership, joinage, leave us a comment. Whatever you can do, just give us some love in some form or fashion. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love you to be a part of Roster Watch Nation. Anyways, that's it for me. Until next time, be ready.